Well, you know, the thing about that in those days was there was just no half-heartedness.
It was like my foot just came off the brake and I just said, I don't care.
Yes.
I'm not hitting the brakes anymore, but I'm just going to be fully abandoned.
You know, before that time period, I would have thought, okay, well, you could make a sacrifice and follow Jesus. But after that happens, there wasn't really a sacrifice choice. It was like, hey, God, I just want to do the next thing you want me to do. What is that?
Is the next generation going to sign up? And I don't know, sometimes I just wonder, are they willing to take those risks that we took?
The life change for me is when I came to a place in college where I said, I got to find out who Jesus is. So I said, all right, I'm going to take the summer, I'm going to start in the book of Matthew, I'm going to take one chapter at a time. Whatever Jesus did, I'm going to do it. Whatever Jesus said to do, I'm going to obey it with all my heart. I came in that summer and I was changed. I'd asked before the summer started, I said, God, I want to know who you are. Show me that you're real. And God spoke to me so clearly. He said, you asked me to show you that I was real. And I've come.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago, and as we're sitting here talking right now, it's that same presence of God, that nearness of Jesus that's so real that nobody can ever take it away from you.
I remember when we're like, okay, we're going to do the Great Commission. And I was fearful. If you know me, I'm probably not quite the risk taker as this man right here is. And so I thought, how can I raise another generation that it'll be in their DNA? It'll just be a part of them. That'll be their natural response. It wouldn't be the crazy response, but it'd be the natural response just to want to say, God, what's on your heart? We used to pray prayers like, Lord, give me a part of your dream. Give me a dream. What is a dream of yours? I want to do it.
I come in and I see these people just jumping up and down and just wild in the presence of God. And I remember thinking, that's weird. That's weird. But then there was just something in me going, it's weird, but my heart is touched. And there's something about what I saw in a radical way that I thought, I want to be there. And the next thing I knew, I was in the carpet with my face on the ground just like everybody else was. And I just remember falling in love with Jesus, and it was that love that I felt from him that it was like my foot just came off the brake and I just said, I don't care.
Yes.
I'm not hitting the brakes anymore, but I'm just going to be fully abandoned.
So you were my college pastor, and I remember you having to call me and talk me through things because I was actually more resistant to the thing. I was this prideful, cocky fraternity guy, and then I go on this Mexico trip because I hear of all these miracles that are happening that you guys are leading, and I'm sitting on the back row. You know, I'm the back row, too cool for school guy, and I remember Jimmy talking about the type of people that are seeing God move all over the world. And in that moment, I'm like, I don't want to miss that. I can't. If that's going on in the world right now, I have to be a part of it. Then you're talking about brokenness and those that are completely surrendered to God. And I remember my heart just pounding out of my chest. And when you give the altar call of who actually wants to completely surrender their life, it wasn't like I'm called to the ministry or who's just giving their life to Jesus, who's going to sell out. I remember actually at that moment for the first time in my life, not caring what other people think, running to the front, trying to beat everyone. But my life has never been the same since that one point.
I just remember such marvelous comrades. That was really what it was. We had people who were like, if you're going to go for Jesus, I'll go for Jesus. And it was a glorious time.
I fell in love in Jesus one summer. The next summer, what happened is I fell in love with those who've never heard. You know, many of you guys, we've all experienced around the table, when you share Jesus with somebody that has never heard, and they hear for the first time, and you realize the power of the gospel, you know, it's addictive, man. You just can't live life another way. And not only did we experience the salvation, but we experienced the book of Acts. We saw Acts come alive right before us, and it just captured my heart to say, you know what, I can't do anything else with my life. By the early 90s, we found that not only were we changing the world locally and doing short-term missions, but we had the grace and the ability to plant churches. And we went to southern Siberia and we planted churches, and then we went down to Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan. All these crazy places were becoming realities because we kept just doing the simple stuff that God had given us. Loving Jesus, loving each other, and sacrificing our lives, just going for it, whatever it took to see the nations reached.
And I remember that after the summer in 1992, we were calling people to Jesus, people were repenting, turning to Jesus, and we said, we're going to go baptize you now. Whoever wants to go and get baptized. And I just remember getting out there in the lake and everyone baptizing the 45 of the first believers in that church. And it was where the gospel came alive to me. It clicked. This is what Paul was doing. He was planting churches. He was laying his life down. And I've never read the New Testament the same again.
You know, the last couple of years I had the privilege of going back to our churches there in our initial church plant in Latter Day, then over to Irkutsk and down in Mongolia for their 20-year anniversaries. And I was talking to a lot of the leaders, and I said, hey, just go around the room, tell me real quickly, how did you get to come to know Jesus, or when did you get saved? First guy said, when I was 15 years old, you came out to the streets and you preached the gospel. Wow. And I heard about Jesus for the first time.
Wow.
And I came and I gave my life to Jesus, and I've never turned back. He's 35 years old. And another guy said, you know, y'all did a sports camp. You brought a bunch of people over here and you did a sports camp. And I gave my life to Jesus. Half the people there who were our leaders had come to the Lord in those first 5 years of our doing outreach. But, you know, Jeff had just mentioned about marvelous comrades. Laura and I had prayed, you know, when we kind of decided we were going to walk away from it all and love Jesus and walk away from old friends and old opportunities and partnerships and networks and all the stuff we'd been a part of in our past life. And we said we're going to go. We said, we're willing to go at it alone, Lord, but would you bring us marvelous comrades who fear your name? And obviously you guys are the fruit of that, but I literally could say there are thousands upon thousands of marvelous comrades. We gave up our way of life and our social circles and everything else, but we gained actually the whole world in the sense of an opportunity to see Jesus and to walk with people who love him with all their heart.
Man, my family is broken and hurting and they don't know God, but I may give up family, brothers, sisters, and many for his name's sake. But when I look around the room, it's not just this room, but who it represents is I found fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters, and it was family. It was family that kept the fire going and just kept my foot off the brake and I'm going to go. I'm all in. I'm all in.
Wow. I have no regrets over the last 30 years. We've been able to carry Jesus into every phase of life. But I think I'm at that place where I feel like the Holy Spirit's really saying, it's time to sign up again, man. It's time to go for it like there's no tomorrow. I don't want to live any less now at 50 than I was living at 22. You know, if we live like that, then these stories, they'll never end. They'll just never end. So I'm signing up again. I'm signing up again.
Life's a little more complex now. Whether it's more responsibilities, being 20 years older, 3 kids, but you know, even looking back from that day and now looking ahead, like you were saying, it just makes me say, I want to sign up again. God's still the same. And his calling for me and the next great thing he has for me to walk in, I don't want to miss. So,
for us, 14 years, you know, we went to the Middle East and worked, and a lot of years without anything, no fruit, and all those times so many of you guys visited us there over the years. But in the end, what do we see? We see those dreams, the things that we knew were on God's heart from the beginning. Took longer and was a lot harder than we ever imagined. Saw just, thousands of people meeting in house churches, seeking God together. And we saw the dreams of God come alive. We saw persecution. We even saw the inside of prison.
It always costs you more than you think it's going to cost.
It does.
Am I really going to sign up again? After I never thought we'd go to prison. I never thought I'd go to prison. Even on the way to prison, I said, I'm not going to prison. But the question comes to even those sacrifices and those events, they do something in you, and you have to work it through and get healed and recover and whatever. But then are you going to trust the one that led you there?
Yes.
There's no place on the earth that the gospel can't flourish if we're committed to laying our lives down for it. Now, I can say that I had a lot more exuberance when I said that 16 years ago than I did maybe 4 or 5 years in, because it was hard. But underneath all of that were these revival moments I'd experienced in Bulgaria, in Waco, meeting with Jesus in the office upstairs and saying, I want these people to know what I have experienced, but what I can experience on a day-to-day basis. So I think about signing up again. I think, man, I've had to sign up again about 1,000 times in order to continue to be a part of what God's called me to. And it's been worth it. We've got 3 churches in Boston, 1 in Arizona. We've got works throughout the world that have all started out of that place of saying, we're going to die in Boston so that Christ might come alive in this community. So.
A while back, I had one of our college leaders from one of our Antioch churches ask me the question. He said, do you think that our generation is watering down the radical sacrifice of your generation? Do you think we're living as radical as you guys and we're going to miss something? And at the same time, I'm looking at him and I see his heart just wanting it so bad, and I just said, I believe you can do it. You've got what it takes to carry on this message of the love of Jesus that changes the world. And my experience, as well as you guys' experience, is that you give it all up for Jesus. You give it all up for Jesus and for His dreams and for His purposes and for His plans in the earth, and you'll never have a life of regret.
That's right.
If you choose something else, I can't promise anything. But with Jesus, He promises everything.
I think there's this idea that my generation is a second soil generation, that we spring up really quickly. We're great at knowing how to receive from God, and we get excited in the presence of God, but we don't take the time to let our roots go deep. And I think looking around the table and seeing you guys, you are people that have let your roots go deep in God, and that's why you're still here. And I think even growing up in the movement, that's just what I keep remembering, is that place of, man, we're in this thing for the long haul, and even in our own family, we always had a big map above our dining room table, and we had this little flip book of missionaries, and every day we would flip through and say, okay, these people are in this nation, and Lord, we want to pray for them, and how can we give, and how can we be a part of what God's doing in the unreached, and it honestly seemed like the 9 months of school were the thing that we had to do. And then the 3 months of being overseas was the thing that we were made to do. And, even going to college, I remember the first year or so, just all the complexities of college and the different things that get thrown at you. I just felt something shifting in me a little bit. And I remember last year, I was at World Mandate, and Paul Richardson talked about, reaching this lost tribe in the middle of the jungles of New Guinea. And was telling the story, showed this video, and I remember going up to the front and just weeping. And I was like, God, something feels unsettled in me. Like, what is this inside of me that just is breaking? And I fell to my knees, and I heard God say, Caleb, I've inscribed the unreached on your heart, and you're not going to be able to get away from them. And I just wept for must have been 30 minutes to an hour of just like, this is what's in us. This is what is our movement. It's a people that have said, Jesus, you're worth it all, and you're worth it for the long haul, And I think that's what I want my generation to be known for. I want us to be a people that hear the voice of God, and we obey no matter what He says for as long as it takes until we see His kingdom come. And we're going to sign up again. We're going to sign up again.
Amen.